Um, all right, so Josh, I think we have killed enough time. So thank you all for joining today. My name is Nathan Pacini. I am a marketing manager here at Data Science Dojo. And today I have Josh Cavalier. And Josh, you're a founder of joshcavalier.ai. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile earlier, and I'm like, this guy is just a learning and development specialist for the last, I think it was 30 years is what your
That's
LinkedIn
right.
profile says.
Been at it for a while.
Yeah, and today you're going to be we're going to be mastering ChatGPT and crafting powerful prompts.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Great.
Let me know if you need anything, and if I see something in the audience where if they want you to zoom in on something, I'll let you know.
Sure. And Nathan, before we get started, are we able to share the link to the document where all the prompts are at? Could we
do you have that ready?
Yeah, just a second.
Great, thank you. Excellent. Hey, good day, everybody. Thank you so much for taking part of your day and spending it with me. I'm Josh, and as Nathan alluded to, I have been at this for quite some time as far as just being in business and being in industry. I am the founder of joshcavalier.ai. I've been in that role since March. Prior to that, I was in corporate as a learning architect for a $5 billion supply chain company. And before that, I owned my own training business for 22 years. Before that, I was in e-learning back in the days of CD-ROM. I was even doing mainframe training. So I've been in the learning and development space for 30 years. And today you're going to get a look at prompts and prompt engineering through my lens. So you'll be able to take these techniques and apply them to whatever work you're doing. But just kind of keep in mind that these prompts are, again, more on the learning and development side. But again, you can change these prompts, make them your own, and just have fun with them. And that's what we're going to do today, is have fun. All right. And so let's see. Oh, and the joshcavalier.ai site may take a little long to load. It's a redirect. If you want to get there faster, joshcavalier.com. Okay. So if you are looking for me online. Okay, just a little bit of context setting here. I do want you to keep in mind that I'm not going to be doing really crazy things like prompt injections or doing code with prompting. We're really looking at text-based outputs today and getting granular with tactics that you can use in prompting. So if you're looking for some really mega advanced type prompting, you may want to like hang on to the end, because I will be doing prompts that are formatted in JSON and YAML. But this is for everybody. So you're gonna get a huge variation of prompt types. So if you're just starting out, you're going to see some great ones at the start. If you're a little bit more advanced, stick around. Okay, we'll get to you at the end. All right, and so there's a little bit of something here for everybody. What we're going to learn today: mastering the freeform prompt, mastering what I call structured prompt, which is that programmatic way of prompting, and then we'll get into some advanced prompt crafting techniques like chain of thought and tree of thought, how you would apply that in the real world, and some other little tips and tricks along the way. So how do large language models work? Well, most of you are here and you have tried ChatGPT, or you've tried a large language model. So we have all kinds of various data inputs coming into the model. Now, today we're going to be working with ChatGPT, and we have, again, somewhat of an idea of what was used to train this model. Pretty much everyone's saying the whole entire internet, right? So there is a lot of information in there. And we then have training, which primarily is human reinforced training on that model. And the results that we get back from our prompts, please keep in mind that it's all based on probability, right? So it is using a vector database, and based upon probability, we get words coming back from the model, which is the trick. You're going to find that prompting is an art and a science. You can think about how a large language model works. The prompts are the words that you give it and words that are coming back. But there are some pretty amazing things that you can add to your prompts that give it just a little bit better results along the way. And so when I talk about probability, This is what I mean. This is inside of the OpenAI workspace, and I'm okay when it comes to JavaScript programming, but I create this little Plinko game that illustrates how probability works, and it's really by chance. You can go ahead and you can start a sentence like, as I cross the street, I noticed that from out of nowhere, a huge black dog, right? So how does ChatGPT know what words to put in there? Well, it's all based on probability. So as I cross the street, I noticed from out of nowhere a huge dog, black, rain, bird, other. There's all these words that can come up, and you can see the probability numbers right there, with dog being the highest probability in this little story that I'm writing here. But there's an outside shot that black or nothing or rain or bird could also come up, right? So I know that for people that are just starting out with ChatGPT, they have this impression that it's just pulling information from the internet, right? Or from some other type of database, but it's really pulling word for word out on probability. All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at the freeform prompt. And a freeform prompt is really just the way that you talk. There's not that much structure to it. And when you're just getting started with ChatGPT, hey, that's a great way to get going, okay? So a freeform prompt is over on the left-hand side, and you can see it says something to the effect of, act like an instructional designer, create a list of learning objectives to cook a smoked potato salad, and it continues. Just some background on the potato salad. During COVID, smoking food was my hobby. And so the control prompt that I used when I first started using ChatGPT, and I use it with Bard and Claude and other large language models, is how do I cook a smoked potato salad? So if you want the recipe, I can give it to you. But that is what I use every single time, just to kind of gauge what the large language model is doing. Okay. Over on the right-hand side, we have a structured prompt. So if you are familiar with JSON formatting, you may be intrigued by what's happening over there. So we can use a free form, which is like sentences, or we can do structured, which can be in a programmatic format like JSON or YAML, which you'll see in just a little bit. Okay, the structure of a free form prompt. So when you're just getting started and working with ChatGPT or a large language model, there are some tactics that you can use to get really good results without creating a large prompt. Sometimes it's interesting to put in 4 or 5 words and see what return. But what I found is you can use a role, like act as an instructional designer, but in your work, maybe it's a data scientist or an engineer or an accountant or whatever the case may be. Now, why would we want to go ahead and use a role? Well, again, keep in mind that when we're working with a large language model, there are words that are in the model that have relationships. And just by going in and referencing a role, you put all the words related to that role into a higher probability of coming back. Now, in the case of an instructional designer, that's huge. It's a massive amount of information, but really any kind of role is like that, right? Whether you're a screenwriter or you're an engineer or you're a financial consultant, whatever the case may be. So that body of work around that role comes back. Next, we have the task. You must be very clear in the output that you're trying to generate. What are you trying to create? Is it an email? Do you need a table of information? Is it a schedule? Right. So we want to go ahead and be very clear as to the task that we want ChatGPT to perform. This could even be in the role of, like a chat bot. And finally, we have detailed instructions. So what kind of information would ChatGPT need to create the output in the format that I want? So if I need to ask it to format the text in a markdown format, I could add that to the instructions. All right, so again, we have the role, we have the task, and we have instructions. Now, can I add additional information to that to get back richer results? Sure. You can add a tone. If you want a writing style, you can add that in there. If you wanted to write in the persona of somebody who, may be in the model, sure, you can give that a go. But just for the basics, just for the foundations of creating great output, role, task, instructions, way to go. Okay, all right, now it's time to go ahead and get our hands dirty and do a thank you so much for putting that link in the chat. If everybody would open up their chat window, and we have a link in there to a document. And I'm going to go ahead and, okay. So you're going to have to go ahead and put your name in to grab this document. Once you have the document, and I already have it over on my side, so I'm just going to drop this down real quick and bring the document open. And also, while you're downloading the document, if you have it open, go ahead and open up ChatGPT. Because if you didn't know, this is a hands-on experience. So you can either sit back and enjoy the show, or you can prompt along with me and have some fun along the way. So hopefully you have that document up and running. And if you just, you scroll through it, there are tons of prompts that are in here. If we don't get to them all today, at least you got the prompts and you can mess around with those on your own time. All right, so there's a question in there. What version of ChatGPT does this apply to? You can use the 3.5 model, and that's fine. What I can tell you, though, is that the 3.5 model has 175 billion parameters, where the 4 model, what some people say, has 1 trillion parameters. And so you're going to go in and you're going to get a richer experience with GPT-4. But for what we're doing today, it is not required at all. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and let's do this first prompt here. And what we're going to be doing is creating design an engaging and interactive e-learning module for a course topic. Now, where it says course topic, make it your own. Put a hobby or something that you are interested in, right? So let's have fun with this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and let's go ahead and bounce over to ChatGPT. And I'll use the 3.5 model. I'm not going to show off and use 4 today. So I will use the 3.5 model if you're playing along at home. And let's go ahead and change the course topic. Now, of course, I'm going to stick with barbecue as my topic. And let's see what happens here. So even with this very simple freeform prompt, I am able to go in and create an e-learning storyboard for this particular course, which is pretty wild. One thing I do need to do, though, before I continue, is I need to turn off my custom instructions. I don't want to cheat. So let me just turn those off here real quick. Sorry. Away with you, custom instructions. Okay. Because I'm sure everyone's like, well, how is ChatGPT, how does it know it's Josh? Right? Well, those custom instructions sure do help when you want specific feedback. But if we go in and we take a look at the output here, just by going in and saying a learning architect, design an e-learning module for barbecue, and the details down below, you can see the output. Right? That's pretty awesome. Now, again, keep in mind, you're not going to get the same thing as me, right? And everybody here, we almost have 100 people in the room. Everybody's answer is going to be different. Why? Why is it going to be different? Put it in the chat box. Temperature, yeah. And what's the temperature value? numeric wise? Thanks, Bill. 0 to 1. Awesome. Yeah, it's all on probability, right? And I believe when you first get started with ChatGPT, if you don't understand that, it could be absolutely frustrating. I know that for myself, it was frustrating. I didn't understand it, but once I understood how the vector database works, I got it. That's why we have the regenerate button down here, because if I don't like this output, I can hit regenerate. I'm rolling the dice again. And look at this. It is a completely different format than the prior. And so with that, we now see one of the disadvantages of having a freeform prompt. Yeah, it does give me some good results back, but it is all over the place in regards to the structure, and the probability really comes into play. And as we continue our journey here today, we're going to take a look at a structured prompt. We're going to put those guardrails in and try to get some really detailed feedback here from ChatGPT. Okay, let's continue. So I'm going to go back to the document, and you can see that I have another prompt here for multiple choice questions. You know, one of the great things about, doing these prompts and finding a prompt that works for you, that fits into your workflow, it is great for taking care of mundane work. Now, I don't know if you've ever had to create a multiple choice question, but my gosh, trying to figure out distractors, that can take forever. So let's go ahead and try this prompt right here. Act like an instructional designer, write 10 multiple choice questions about, again, the world's your oyster. You put whatever topic you want in there. Okay, before I continue, should I create a new chat? You can put that in the chat box. What do you think? Should I create a new chat on this one? Yes. No. Oh, interesting. Maybe. Okay, it's across the board. Well, you know what? It depends. All right. If I want to clear the context, in other words, like I want to remove the current context of words, right? And the results that are coming back, I want to start anew. Yes, I'm going to make a new chat. But if I want to maintain the high probability of certain words coming back in the chain of my results, I'm going to continue the conversation. So there are certain times when you want to continue prompting. Like let's say that you're doing an email sequence, right? Perfect example. You're going to continue prompting. But if it's a new task and you want to get clean results back, you're going to create a new chat. So let's go ahead and let's make a new chat. I'm going to go in the upper left-hand corner. We'll make a new chat. I'm going to go ahead and paste that prompt in there. I need to put a topic in there. I'm going to continue my topic of barbecue and run it. Let's see if we get some multiple choice questions. Now, you can have a lot of fun with this, and you can tweak the prompt a little bit and make it a chat bot and have it go through these questions for you without giving away the answer. So there's ways you can tweak the prompt and leverage that. But here we have just simple multiple choice questions, which is pretty cool, right? And again, I know from a productivity standpoint, this is going to save me tons of time. Let's continue on. All right, so more freeform prompts. Oh yes, a video script. Let's try that one. So again, you can see that we have the role, learning architect, but I want to point out a little nuance in here with this one. All right. And I'm going to create a new chat, and I'm going to put this prompt in here. And before I run it, I'm going to point out a few things. Again, my course topic is going to be barbecue, and align with these learning objectives. Describe how to barbecue. Describe how to barbecue. Okay. Sorry, just got to tweak this a little bit. With this objective, there we go. Describe how to barbecue. One thing I want to point out, look at the roles here. All right. The roles are act like a learning architect and a video producer. This is what we call role stacking. And when you are prompting, you are allowed to add as many roles as you want in here. So if you're trying to do multiple things here, I want somebody who understands how to create educational content. Also, I need somebody who is a video producer that has written a video script before, right? So this is a really slick way to go in and get more refined results by role stacking. And before I run this prompt, I just want to answer some of these questions in here. What's been your experience with putting instructions before role tasks, context questions, or examples versus putting instructions afterwards? Yeah, RB, I always like to put my instructions ahead before the results, especially using custom instructions on the GPT-4 Plus account. I use custom instructions all the time so that it guides the response. And then I can do deep work as opposed to continuing to prompt to try to get where I need to be. So yes, I like doing those instructions ahead of time. Is there a way to see the chat so I can get consistent answer whenever I ask a certain question? Again, custom instructions. You can guide and have different sets of custom instructions through C3PO. And that's my recommendation there. Yeah, so Jeff, the last comment about create posts like teach ChatGPT to write like you. So with that, like I've been able to go in and give it sample texts, but I find like the token window isn't large enough to get my specific, like it can come close to my tone. But I always find like I need to go in and tweak and modify and rewrite, especially if I'm doing a large article or anything like that. I can get it to sound like me, but I'm definitely getting it only 60 or 70% of the way there. Now, could you go in and do some fine tuning and tweak and use a custom API call to have it sound exactly like you? Most definitely. But then the question is, do you want to go ahead and pay that fee? Do you want to go ahead and pay for those tokens and use the fine-tuned model that talks just like you? I don't know. Depends upon the type of work that you're doing and how much you're getting paid to do it, right? All right. Well, let's go ahead and let's run this one. We're going to look for a video script. And here we go. Well, you can see that now it's going in and writing this voiceover. And then we have the visual. Oh, this is a lot of fun. Now, if for anyone that's creating video-based content out there, this is a huge time saver in regards to getting your creative juices flowing and trying to come up with a script. And you can see that it goes in and even describes the visual of what's happening on the screen and the voiceover for this, which is kind of fun. All right. Okay, so freeform prompts, I think we got that down. Let's go ahead and continue on. The next topic I want to talk about is a prompt sequence, which has been touched upon here. And when you are doing deep work in ChatGPT or any large language model, you want to start with the best prompt possible. And what I mean by that is we're trying to get back from the model words that are going to influence the additional words that are coming back, right? So, again, based upon probability, we need certain words to come back that is exemplar and represents the outputs that we need. So it starts with the first prompt. Once we have a great first prompt, we can continue prompting and do the additional work. So you have a prompt, a result, and you prompt again, and then we have a in chat or a contextual tuning that's occurring with all these words coming back. And again, we can't store anything in memory just with ChatGPT as it is. Now there are other systems that are out there that you can take things and put them in memory for a while and then leverage that with additional prompting. But just as ChatGPT out of the box works, there is no memory storage, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and do this prompt sequence. I'm going to go back into my Word document and look for a prompt sequence. Hey, I do want to point out one thing though. We didn't get to this prompt, but this prompt right here that builds a schedule, this is a really powerful prompt. It's a good example of a prompt that is short, but gives you some high value output that would take some time to create. And it's a 2-day schedule for a class. And that's a good one. But we're doing prompt sequencing. All right. So here's prompt number 1, where we're going to go ahead and act as a course instructor, write an initial email to students introducing the course with timing and pre-work. Super simple. So we're going to copy that prompt. Let's go over to ChatGPT, make a new chat, paste it in there. Now we have a few things. Whoops, sorry. We have a few things that we need to update in here. The course is going to be whatever topic. Again, if you have a hobby or anything like that, you can put that in. The timing is it's going to be Saturday at 10 a.m. And then the pre-work is you need to go ahead and watch a YouTube video. That's fine. That's it. Now, the one thing I want to point out here is notice that I have some words that are capitalized. Okay, so for those of you that are a little bit more advanced, does that really matter if those words are capitalized or not? What do you think? Oh, it's across the board. Oh my goodness. You know what? So when I first started working with ChatGPT, I thought that capitalization was going to come into play. And that's the reason why I put it in there, right? And I've also, from anecdotal comments from other people using ChatGPT, they believe that if you capitalize the words, that it actually has emphasis. I still can't determine that. And I don't have the answer to that. But I do know that when I capitalize a word, visually, as I'm building out a prompt, I use that word over and over again. And I try not to use similar words. I try to use the same word. So it's almost like a variable, right? So those of you that are doing advanced prompting and have tried variable tactics, those work and they work well. So again, I use capitalization to emphasize words that are referenced multiple times in the prompt. And it does make it look pretty and neat. Yes, it does. Okay. But if you have any kind of references out there where OpenAI says, yes, capitalize words, I'd love to see it because I haven't seen it yet. Anyways, let's continue. So I'm going to go ahead and start this first prompt here. And we're going to write an email to students. Now, you could add additional information as far as the audience and that type of information. But we got a schedule, we got pre-work, we got what to expect. This is perfect. See, I love this. This is a great start to an email, and it's got all the right words in here to continue the prompt chain. So if we look at the next prompt in this series, it's pretty simple. There is not much here. Write a reminder with the timing and the pre-work. So yet again, I am referencing these variables or these capitalized words. I'm not using new words. I'm using the same words. And that's the key here, right? So I'm going to run that. And then now it's going to give me email number 2. Fred's got a great question. I'll get to that in a moment. I'm just going to continue my prompts. I'm just knocking them out here, right? We're doing a whole email sequence. Also, you know, another thing as we continue these prompts, because I'm doing the whole sequence here. That to Fred's question there. I noticed that the action verb used is create or write. Is that part of the formula? Words are important, Fred, right? So it does matter. Using the verb write is going to influence the output types versus the word create. Create's ambiguous. Write is a little bit more specific. So again, words do matter. There are nuances to how you reference, and the words that you use directly impact the probability of the words coming back. So just keep that in mind. All right. And I see that question about the Recording Academy. I'm going to hit that one at the end. Hey, another thing I want to point out here, as you did this, you do this email sequence, who's using automation? Who's using Zapier or Make or any other type of platform for automation? Throw that in the chat. Leonardo AI, okay. Some people are using Zapier, awesome, thank you. Ooh, you.com, I haven't tried that one. I'll have to take a look at that. So the work that you do in ChatGPT is going to have a direct impact when you begin leveraging automation sequences using tools like Zapier and Make.com or Make AI. As we go into 2024, I believe that these automation tools are really going to come into focus. And the linchpin in all of this, especially if you're using ChatGPT like GPT-4, is the quality of your prompt. Also keep in mind that models change over time. And so by having your prompt engineering chops down, when you create these automation sequences, in this case, we created an email sequence, man, it's going to pay dividends, huge dividends. Also, when you're using prompt as a service tools online that are creating automations for you, you can have a keen eye and have some agency in deciding whether you're going to use somebody else's prompt as part of a prompt service, or you're going to leverage your own prompt in ChatGPT, right? Fred, thanks for the recommendation, OpenAI and Hugging Face. Yeah, there's a lot of excellent work up on Hugging Face. It's a great reference and repository. Okay, that is a prompt sequence. Fantastic. Let's continue our conversation. So now let's get into structured prompts. So a freeform prompt, again, just for reference, is you pretty much are just writing sentences. And that's one of the reasons why, I don't know if you guys noticed this, you may have been asking like, hey, what's this little microphone thing? So I actually have a plugin or a Chrome extension that allows me to talk to ChatGPT, which when I'm doing like messing around and just trying things off the cuff, it really comes in handy. So, I mean, you can find all kinds of different Chrome extensions for, adding your voice to the prompt or to the message window. So yeah, I would search for, voice ChatGPT in the Chrome extensions, and there's many that are out there. But that's a pure freeform prompt. I'm just talking to ChatGPT. All right, let's go back to a structured prompt. So with a structured prompt, again, left-hand side's freeform, right-hand side structured, in this case, JSON. We are going to have a lot of fun on this prompt. You're going to love this. Let's do a ChatGPT space adventure game. All right. So I'm not even going to get into the format. I just want you to take this prompt and put it in ChatGPT and let it rip. Just run it. Okay. And I'll get into the details in a moment. So I found my space adventure game. Now, for this particular prompt, you go to the curly brace up here and scroll down. To the end curly brace, go ahead and copy it. You'll go back over to ChatGPT. I'll go in 3.5 and run it. Now, I do have to mention something about the 3.5 model. And I noticed that there was a question about the slides being shared. I do believe the slides will be shared after this. Okay. So the 3.5 model. Oh, okay. So it's working today. I have noticed that, in the months that I have been using this prompt in workshops or whatever, that 3.5 is finicky and it doesn't like to play the game sometimes. Whereas the 4.0 model is rock solid. And this is really cool. So for those of you that are old enough, you may remember text-based games growing up, showing my age. And now we can go ahead and do this adventure game. So I want to go to the control room. And it continues the adventure. That's right, Bill. You got it, dude. So I want to go to the observation deck. And again, the adventure continues. But if you go back to the original prompt, you can actually go in and see the sophistication in here and the way the prompt was set up. And I want to go ahead and introduce you to this structure called a Tracy prompt. And I got a slide for it here coming up. But a Tracy prompt is a wonderful way to structure a prompt so that there is organization to it, which is critical when you're doing complex prompt engineering, okay, beyond just a free-form prompt. And in this case, we have some very specific rules that we're dictating about how this game is going to run. And for instance, we have a task, play the space adventure game. And you can read this. I'm not going to go over the whole thing with you, but you act as a role. And then there's a person who runs the game. And there's a lot of rules around how the game master runs the game, which is the game engine. And then we have attributes about the game itself, like the galactic cruiser and the parts of the cruiser here. And then we have a character in the game called Artemis that you'll encounter in the game. And what's really awesome is that if you wanted to change the genre of the game, that is incredibly easy to do, especially with GPT-4. I can do it with GPT 3.5. I'm going to give it a shot here. I'll show you what I mean. If I make a new chat, I can go ahead and say, change this to a change this code so that it's The Hobbit. That's it. So I'm just going to throw the whole prompt in there and let's see if it rewrites it. Yeah. So now it's changing the whole entire game to be about The Hobbit. And so I'll be able to copy that code and then put it back into a new prompt window or a new chat. And then I have a whole different game. Right. So now if you're into the Shire and different, Lord of the Rings, now you have a different game. So I can put that in there and run it. Boom. Welcome to the Shire, dear Hobbit. Pretty amazing. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed the space adventure game. And this was all created with JSON. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. And from a programmatic standpoint, like, why would we go through all this trouble of having this structure in here when we're doing our prompts? One is that it is going to give you a way of removing additional words that really don't need to be in there. You know, when we form sentences, the neural network, or the process, the transformer, when words go through, some words are more important and other words get kicked out. When you do a structured prompt, it's really hyper focused on getting a lot of bang for your buck with minimal words, right? And that has a huge impact in the outputs. The other reason why is if you are working in a team environment and you have a prompt library, when you use structured prompts, you're able to go in and methodically pick a line number and make adjustments and document. Because when you use a freeform prompt, well, there's all kinds of different things you can change with it, right? And how do you document that? How do you go in and say, well, I modified the prompt this way? You can, but it's a little bit more difficult, right? But with JavaScript object notation and a mega prompt or structured prompt, you can go line number by line number, and it's going to be so much easier to get that work done. Now, for those of you that are not involved in programming, not big programmers, you could use a format called YAML, yet another markup language. And this is a simplified version of the JSON format, and it works just fine. Again, whatever flavor you like, okay? And so in my prompt examples, I do have a YAML format. Okay, let me go ahead and take a look at the questions here real quick. Do you have any tips to make AI generated text looks as they're written by human? Allie, all I would say is that it takes some refinement of your prompts and looking for the certain voice and tone to get it in such a way that it comes back to have that character and depth. It can be done, but it does take some work to, as opposed to like a generic response, it's kind of flat, but it takes that, again, trying to find that tone and the words around that tone to get that human touch to the outputs. If you create a too large a task or too many inputs or longer conversation, yes. Yeah, Allie. So if you have a large prompt or you have a large conversation and you start to run out or get close to the end of the token limit, it does get kind of wonky. I find for myself, like I'm doing work where I'm doing maybe anywhere from 3 to maybe 10 prompts in a row, but I'm not going beyond that. Like at that point, I've already gotten the outputs that I've needed. I mean, I have run into the end of the token window many times. But yeah, you got to be careful once you start having those long conversations. They enter the result that they want to copy from somebody and ask ChatGPT to create a prompt template. Have you done? Yes. So reverse engineering outputs and asking it for a prompt is an excellent way to start formulating words around the content that you want to create. That is an awesome tactic. Yes. Let's see. Could you give an example of a prompt library used by one person? How do you group them or collect them? That's a great question. Let me go ahead and bring that up real quick. Bear with me. So I have a prompt library here. This is in Notion. And the way that this works, and this is only one way. Okay, there are various ways that you can organize a prompt library. I have this prompt library structured by, let me zoom in on this, structured by role and what that role would create. So like an instructional designer would make a course outline. I click on course outline. I have a description in here, and here's the prompt, right? So I can click on all these, and I have different prompts that come up. And, again, I can version them out. This can be a team prompt library. That's one way of organizing. And I have 150 in here. So there's a lot of different prompts that are in this library. Okay. This is in Notion. You could use Google Sheets. You can use Excel, whatever the case may be. Now, I can tell you that now that I've been doing this for almost a year, I believe that prompt libraries are going to be structured more around workflows. So as opposed to having just like one-off prompts in here on a roll, having a workflow where you have specific inputs and outputs in a top to bottom, and then you would have the model and the prompt, and then maybe different tools. Because one thing that's going to happen, and that we're seeing right now with artificial intelligence, is the collapse of workflows. And there are tools that are out there in the marketplace that do multiple things, and it's very confusing. So I recommend documenting your workflows, putting your prompts at that one point in the workflow, and then looking for tools that are going to expedite the content creation process. Yep. Hold on. So people want the prompt library. Bear with me 1 second. And I'll get that link for you. And there's the prompts. Okay. Are these keys in the JSON prompts defined somewhere, or we choose your own? Yeah, you define your own. There is no rhyme or reason to those JSON words that are in there. Okay. Is ChatGPT 4 updated more often, whereas 3.5 was? I have no idea on the updates. OpenAI will let you know when those models are updated, but I do know that ChatGPT is updated monthly, and I'm assuming the models are being updated in the background. Roya, I can't get into how to update ChatGPT locally. That's way beyond the scope of what we're doing here today. What are some of the more unique uses of LLMs that you've seen? Well, I know that there are certain companies that are leveraging large language models with their own data, like Bloomberg, McKinsey, and they have been going in and biting the bullet and paying the money to take the large amount of data that they have and create their own internal large language model, which is extremely powerful. But man, you better have your act together when it comes to your data. It better be clean, and you better have a extremely well thought out strategy in how to leverage that large language model, because you got to maintain it and you got to pay for it. Okay. So continuing on, Tracy prompt. Oh, another format's macromancy. And that, not my favorite, but it's out there in the wild. So JSON over YAML, C3PO, it's about the same. I mean, I've used YAML prompts and they come out really well. So Tracy prompt, before we wrap up here, we got about 5 minutes left. With the Tracy prompt, this is going to be task, role, audience, create, and intent. It's a very well-defined structure. You can do it in JSON, you can do it in YAML. And task is, what are you trying to create? What do you want? Or task is more of like a global type effort. Okay. The role, again, we talked about role earlier and how important that is. The audience, who are you targeting? Who is the output for? Creates the very specific type of output, right? So I'm writing a script, and the intent, the overall intention or purpose of the script. Again, we looked at an e-learning storyboard earlier. Let's go ahead. Let's do one last one here today. And back to our Word document. Yes, let's keep going. Okay, so here's a Tracy prompt, and I am currently at structured prompt virtual course outline. So if you are ever doing an online webinar or a virtual course, this is a great prompt for that. This is in a Tracy format, and it's also in YAML. Now, for my non-programmers out there, this is awesome because you'll be able to go ahead and easily parse this out. The only thing that you have to change in here is the topic information, but you can go ahead and copy this prompt, take it over to ChatGPT. We're going to make a new chat. We'll paste it in there. And this is going to cover barbecue topics. It's going to be 10 hours long. It should have 5 live sessions, 5 pre-recorded sessions. And we're going to be using Microsoft Teams or Zoom, whatever you want to use. And then use these different interaction types. Okay. Here we go. Let's run it and see what we have. So now it's going to go ahead and create this whole entire training plan for you for this virtual course with all the modules and everything in it. All right. So again, that's a good example of a structured prompt and but using the YAML format. Now I know that we're short on time. I do want to just give you a breakdown as far as what else is in the document here. Again, I have all kinds of different prompts in here. We have Tracy format, but it's going to give you an idea of what is possible. And keep in mind that, you know, this is through my lens and the content that I create, but you can make these your own. You can very easily go in and use the structures in here and based upon the work that you do day in and day out, again, change the role, change the output types, maintain the structures, and there's all kinds of different ways that you can leverage these. See if there's anyone in here that I want to mention. Yeah, the two that we didn't get to today, the chain of thought prompt. Hopefully some of you have tried this. Very intriguing. This is one of the reasons why you have to keep looking out for research papers that are hitting really every day about prompt engineering. Here's an example. Just recently, there was a paper that said when you're doing problem solving and you're asking ChatGPT to do something step by step, what words do you add before step by step to have better results? Does anybody know the answer to that? Oh, Amity, take a deep breath. How the heck does that work? Right? Isn't that crazy? And that's what makes AI so wild. All of this stuff. Anyways, look at the chain of thought prompts, which is going to give you an amazing scenario, sales scenario in here. And then also look at the tree of thought prompt. And this is where you can have 4 different people have a conversation to try to group solve a problem. Okay. Excellent. Well, let's go ahead. I'm going to take some of these questions here in the Q&A box. And okay, I'm going to get back to the Recording Academy. One committee member for the Recording Academy. In what ways the music community beyond songwriting can use AI and ChatGPT? I think it really comes down to like what data is out there to play with. Like, you know, when you're talking about the Recording Academy, you know, who do you serve, who your audience is, and what data is that? I know you guys are holding on to a whole bunch of information from over the years, but maybe that's something that's experiential. Maybe you create a chat bot where you can go in and talk to an artist or get insights on lyrics, right? Or maybe you can get descriptions on album covers, or I mean, there's all kinds of different things that are going on. And I think this is the time to like look outside the box as far as like what's possible. So don't like think narrow, like what are text-based outputs, but all kinds of different forms of media. And what are ways that we can take the data that we have and make it more experiential? So I don't know if that answered your question, but that was a difficult one. Can you use ChatGPT to create content for your social media? Yes, totally. In your voice. I mean, I do LinkedIn posts and I do articles and I do all kinds of things. Now, I just don't copy and paste. It's a partner, okay? ChatGPT is a partner to start generating ideas. Like I'm doing multiple presentations at a conference next week, and I use ChatGPT to generate ideas, but then it's all me on the back end, right? It's human, AI, and then human. Please do not copy and paste your work directly from ChatGPT. You better be like going through it with a fine-tooth comb. What are the most valuable sources for news and prompt engineering in the moment? I bounce around on YouTube, I mean, and Reddit. You know, there's prompt engineering forums up on Reddit that you can hit. I know that for like weekly news on AI, Matt Wolf is somebody I watch weekly, WOLFE, Matt Wolf. But I know he is up to date on like all the latest tools, not necessarily prompt engineering, but just AI in general. Who owns the lyrics generated by ChatGPT, the prompter? That's a copyright issue. And I would say anything generated by AI, pure AI, is not copyrightable per the courts, at least with images. By their nature, novices are not aware about accuracy and usefulness of the output as opposed to experts. What kinds of prompt practices ensure novices are getting the best results they can? Wow. You know, Allie, you really have to know your craft. And what I mean by that is when you have been doing in your role, right, you have superpowers, like you know about a certain topic really well. You're able to use words and workflows and references in your prompts that a novice may not have. That alone sets the prompts apart and the outputs apart. Now, in regards to just prompt structure, I think some of the things that I mentioned today, as far as task, role, and any kind of attributes around the task, is going to give you good, solid outputs. But yet, if you don't understand your craft and you don't understand the value of the outputs, it doesn't matter like how good of a prompt it is. There's still going to be deficiencies with what you put out there in the real world. So, you know, these tools, again, augment. They're not going to replace, they augment, and you have to understand your craft.